to strip her of basically all the money that she has. They apparently have been quite successful with this because there are references. I talked to my producers about this morning about her $60 million fortune. How does Britney Spears have only a $60 million fortune? She's been like a superstar for literally decades. Like somebody has the money that she made. But anyway, sorry, what was the aspect of this that you wanted to focus on?
The aspect of there's an aspect of this where the media was not really helpful.
Oh, sure, yes. Well, and by the way, people have been pointing out the hypocrisy recently. Like, was it Perez Hilton who's like, yes, she finally gets her day in court. And it's like, dude, wait, did you forget everything that you've literally ever said about her and used your profile like to make people think about her? Like, you contributed to the media environment that her, like the people who are trying to financially control her, used to get that control. So, and he's hardly the only person. Obviously, there's more to it than that, which I'm sure, Dan, you can probably say a lot more about.
Yeah, no, like Perez Hilton saying that is rich because you have this other media ecosystem that it's gotten in some ways better over the years, but obviously, like just like in politics, the most salacious stuff, the like drama-filled things, that gets the engagement and all the metrics that people who run these kind of businesses care about. And so they continue doing these stories. Perez Hilton back in the MySpace days was like the original grifter of celebrity gossip and drama. And did a lot of it off of Britney Spears. Like Perez Hilton got his like capital as far as professionally and definitely got money off of like publicly like doing these just awful like newsstand gossip type articles about Britney Spears. And so I think it's really rich for that to be coming out where he's continuing to say, oh, finally she gets her day in court without any sort of, it'd be fine if Perez Hilton had previously done a statement saying, I regret a lot of the things I did and I'm going to change the way in which I do music reporting, but he didn't do that. A lot of people who do music reporting is garbage. That's why I do the Audio Face podcast where we do music reporting in a really smart way that's fair and kind of just immoral sometimes.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see if this changes the situation. There's been a lot of media attention on it. Maybe that will do something. And by the way, I say all this as like, am I technically a fan of hers? I liked her early music. I have no vested interest. I just think like at some point, can people just leave her alone? Like seriously, like I understand that that's like a throwback or whatever, but like, hasn't she been through enough at this point? And that's fully accepting that whatever comes next is probably gonna be its own unique hell. But maybe she could at least get a different hell after 13 years of this.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we only have a couple more minutes, so really fast. Do we have time? Oh, we don't have time. No. Okay, well, look, the chocolate in the underpants story, that is going to have to wait until tomorrow, but we're gonna have Francesca Fiorentini. I have a feeling she's gonna have some fun with it, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. So you've definitely got that. With the minute and a half that we have, I did want to read a few super chats. We've been falling a bit behind on that. But Nicole Smith says, instead of trying to get 10 Repubs to vote for it, abolish the filibuster, talking about the infrastructure bill. Obviously, that would be my preference. John Campbell Rees says, a photo of Trump that regularly used on TYT has a bored-looking General Milley. Obviously, he's a clever man, appalled at what his idiot CNC is saying. Potentially, again, I don't know Miley's total past and everything. I'm not vouching for any general. Umberto says, I think that pillow is moving. Speaking about Dan's background, it totally looks like a body. It so looks like a body.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Oh God. Wayne says, conservatives have now determined that critical race theory promotes a love of PB&J sandwiches, demanding their ban. Don't rule it out, it's a possibility. Tomas, thank you for your super chat. No message, but I appreciate it. And MJBM just became a tier 3 member, getting access to the live Q&A, which is coming up in like 35 minutes. It's so close, it's coming up. Dan, thank you as always. Love to have you on. Where can people see more of your work?
YouTube.com/Dan from the internet, YouTube.com/AudioFacePod, or just follow me on Twitter, where all the Twitter is twit. Time to hide a body. Talk to you later.
Dear God. Okay, anyway, coming up, my death. Also, Emma Viglin's gonna be on the Young Turks for all my jokes. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be watching. You should watch along with me. But in just a few minutes, you got Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Go to youtube.com/indisputable_TYT. Wosny Lambre is gonna be co-hosting. It's gonna be awesome. What have the Karens gotten up to? You can find out in just a few. And until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a show today. We're about to get into it. I got a response to Pastor Jesse Lee Peterson, who decided to basically take his whole damn show yesterday to talk trash about me. I have an official statement for the good preacher. Also on the program, we have Andy Hale, civil rights attorney, wrongful conviction attorney. This guy has done some remarkable work around the issue of wrongful convictions in the United States. We're gonna talk to him on the show today. My co-host to break down the news of the day will be none other than Wosny Lambre. We'll get to him in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring your attention to something that has not received the national attention that it deserves. A New York State trooper killed an 11-year-old child. This New York State trooper pulled over a family of four, a father, wife, and two children, 11 and 12. He pulled them over for speeding. It was supposed to be a traffic ticket. It ended up being a death. That state trooper is identified as Christopher Baldner. Let me give you some background to this. Back in December, this family was pulled over by that trooper. There was an argument between the driver, a black male father, and the trooper, according to the report. The driver said, "Can you please call your supervisor?" That's part of the protocol, ladies and gentlemen. You can request a supervisor. It is part of their guidebook protocol. Well, instead of getting a supervisor, this trooper continued to argue with this father. Went back to the squad car, according to the report, cursed at the family. The wife said she was tired. The trooper said, "I don't give a F if you're tired." Just continued in that same aggression. He went to the squad car, comes back, and he decides to spray mace into the vehicle indiscriminately, spraying the father, the mother, and the 11 and 12-year-old in the backseat of the car. Instinctively, the father, in fear of his life and the life of his family, said, "This cop is out of control." And he proceeded to pull away from all of this pepper spray being sprayed, harming his entire family. Well, this cop decided to break policy, got behind this family. He has already seen there's a wife and two children in the car, and he rammed their vehicle, not once, but twice. He ejected the 11-year-old daughter from the car. She died at the scene. She's dead today. She's no more. Look at this beautiful young soul. She's dead over something that should have been a traffic ticket. He was screaming at me. "You were going 100 miles per hour. You shook my car." That's according to the father. I said, "The tractor trailer in front of me shook your car. I had my hands on the steering wheel. I didn't get out of the car. I was no threat to him," Good said. "I asked for a supervisor." The father's name is Tristan Goods. Tristan Goods, 39 years of age, told the New York Daily News that he was driving his wife April and his daughters 11-year-old Monica and 12-year-old Tristina to go and visit family. My wife said she was tired, and he said, the cop, "I don't give a if you're tired," Good recalled. The trooper returned to his cruiser, and when he returned, he flooded Good's SUV with pepper spray. Baldner records show gave chase and used his state police car to ram the back of Good's SUV. About 8 seconds later, Good said Baldner rammed his car a second time. Let's bring up a picture of this father with his daughter. This young man, 39 years of age, was trying to simply protect his family from an out of control cop. I've done some research and I found that this police officer, this state trooper, violated company policy. He violated the policy of the New York State Troopers Division because their policy says you do not utilize aggressive tactics and give chase or utilize ram maneuvers in an unsafe manner where they could harm innocent civilians. It is clear that even if he's guilty of a traffic offense, he's not a felon, He has no weapons. He is not trying to commit any crime whatsoever. There are children in the car. Do they not qualify as innocent civilians? If the black man is not an innocent civilian, does not his wife perhaps qualify as an innocent civilian? This trooper violated policy of his own workplace, and an 11-year-old girl is dead today because of it. What do you think happened to him? Do you think he got fired? No. Do you think he got arrested? No. He still has his job. He's on desk duty to this very moment. And this is why people get pissed off about cops and stories like this. Who in the hell can violate a company policy, and that violation leads to the death of a child, and you still have your job the next day? None. There is no profession, none, except for policing. There is a wrongful death suit that has been filed. The Attorney General of New York has launched an investigation into this. To talk more about it, to break it down with me, I got my big homie, Wosny, Tuesday and Wednesday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Remarkable host, great writer for The Ringer, theringer.com. Big Woz, tell me, brother, am I seeing this wrong?
No, you're seeing it exactly right. And I think the last point you brought up is the most important one about you violate company's policy and it results in the death of a child. You killed a kid in the course of doing your job incorrectly, and yet you get to keep said job. And people watching this at home need to understand that I'm somebody who advocates for workers' rights. I don't believe that you should just lose your job for any old reason, right? Because we see people lose their job for quote unquote embarrassing the company in public, for Facebook posts, for this, for that, for the most innocuous things. This policing, it's one of the most important jobs that we have because we empower these people with the right of the state to kill. Right? Like we empower these people with the ultimate power. And so therefore, they should be held to the highest of standards. The standards that it takes to fire a guy who works at McDonald's for burning a burger or something cannot be much lower than that of a police officer who can behave in this way and kill a child, right? And again, what would be the justification for pursuing these people with such force that they might be allowed to run free from a traffic ticket? Would that be so bad for society? Like, we're not talking about some axe murderers or some people who escaped prison and killed some people before. These are people accused of going over the speeding limit. And this person pursued them and literally ran them off the road. And in the police statement, it said, oh, well, the girl wasn't wearing her seatbelt. That's what they said. It's unacceptable.
Tremendously unacceptable. And remember, the father pulled over in compliance to the traffic stop. The officer was out of control according to his reports. And given the fact that the officer broke policy, violated protocol of the State Troopers Division of New York and decided to kill an 11-year-old girl and put an entire family at risk, I would say the troopers' credibility is definitely in question. And I believe the family. I believe what the family said, right? So you have a situation now where the trooper still is getting paid. The trooper is on desk duty and there's an 11-year-old girl dead. And if you can't understand, and I'm talking to everyone who's always pro-police, if you can't understand the division right here, that it should not be this difficult to apply a common sense standard to a violation of policy that led to the loss of actual life. But here's what you have. You have these civil servant protection rules that are there because of police unions. You have these qualified immunity rules that are there because of police unions and politicians who are willing to justify them. And now you have literally a killer still carrying a badge and a gun legally, a kid killer at that. All right.
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing, because a lot of this is about police culture, This guy would not act this way if he didn't feel wholly protected and, sort of absolved from anything he does on duty. You don't behave this way if you believe that there will be consequences to any of your actions. And so when you have a culture where accountability does not exist, people behave like people who will never be held accountable for anything that they do. If you run somebody off the road and kill an 11-year-old child, and you know you will never be held accountable, this is what we get. The lack of accountability is what breeds this culture. This is a culture of policing. This is why these people go out and behave the way that they do.
Very well said. Let me shift gears back to the Capitol riots, the terrorist attack, Matt Gaetz and his continued narrative that somehow critical race theory is the greatest evil in the world, not the terrorist, not the ideology that led to it, but in fact, a advanced theoretical study that's typically taught in advanced level college courses. That's the great evil. But somebody handed him his behind at an official meeting, and it was beautiful to watch. General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the nation's highest ranking military officer, defended the US military against the Republicans' criticism of being woke. I hope people understand, if you're woke, that means you're not asleep. I don't know if they get that or not. So Milley fired back at lawmakers, especially Representative Matt Gaetz. Now, keep in mind, Matt Gaetz is the poster child for the phrase, "You need to take several seats." This guy is literally being investigated by the federal government for trafficking an underage child or children, and for using cocaine and having some kind of pay for play scheme. And damn, the caucasity is unbelievable with this guy. And he has the nerve to drill generals of the US military about their own philosophy and ideology and value system. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't believe privilege exists? Matt Gaetz got it handed to him on this day. Let me take you to the first video.
On the issue of critical race theory, et cetera, I'll obviously have to get much smarter on whatever the theory is. But I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university. And it is important that we train and we understand, and I wanna understand white rage, and I'm white, and I wanna understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that, because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else, because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look, I do want to know.
Damn, and he was not there to answer that question. He knew this knowledge because he did something called research, study. He decided to read up on it, unlike people like Matt Gaetz. Remember, critical race theory is not taught in K through 12 education. It is an advanced theoretical framework. It is being utilized as a fake pretext in order to provide a context to stop K through 12 educators from teaching children about the truth of racism. That's what it actually does. Matt Gaetz shaking his head at this general for telling him the dogmatic truth. Wosny?
I think the general summed it up quite eloquently there. That was impressive, honestly. He just basically broke it down like, why would I not want to know about the people who we're protecting, and both we're protecting them and they make up the population of the armed services? Why would I not want to know everything about the backgrounds and the thought processes of these people? That was just beautifully and eloquently said. What I do want to talk about, Rashad, is, man, conservatism has lost its damn way. Because if the January 6th thing is now being called a conspiracy by the FBI, that's a one. So now you guys are anti-cop. That's one of the pillars of conservatism. We love the damn police. So now y'all anti-cop and y'all anti-military now too? You don't like the cops or the military? Like they have no ideological incoherence whatsoever. This is baffling to me that in the same week Louis Gohmert comes out on the floor and he perpetuates a preposterous conspiracy theory, the next week you got a lightweight, not even just inexperienced intellectually, and as you mentioned, you got them boys on your head now, boy. You got the boys is after you now. You trafficking all kinds of people, doing all kinds of things at all kinds of sex parties, right? Now they on top of you. You're going after generals in the military, the people who pay the ultimate sacrifice, the people who we call our heroes. They're lost. They lost their way, Rashad.
This is really ironic, right? Because right now what you literally have is a Republican Party that is becoming a mirror reflection of the ideology of Donald Trump. And what is Trump's ideology? He has no true ideology. It's all over the place, just like you described. So let me get this right. Republicans are now anti-Capitol Police. They are anti-FBI. They are anti-US military. And they are anti-investigating crimes against the United States government. This is who they are today. And this is what I call political schizophrenia, because there is no way possible this kind of ideology could make sense to someone who's actually sane.
Yeah, it's been happening for a while, right? The party has slowly but surely been ceding power to what used to be considered the quote unquote fringe of the right wing. These guys are now at the seat of power. It's no longer your Romney types, your Jeb Bush types, your George Bush types, or even your Newt Gingrich types, who's very responsible for this crazy strain. We saw it when John McCain let Sarah Palin be his running mate, and everybody's like, I thought John McCain was a sensible one. He was already giving it up to the lunatic fringe. We saw it when, all of a sudden the black guy comes into office and we start talking about tightening our belts with loose and reckless spending. We know the dog whistles. Yeah. We know what's going on about whenever you hear frivolous spending from a certain type of white person, they talking about welfare. You know what they talking about. And so slowly but surely they've ceded so much power to the people that used to be considered the fringe, and now it's basically a tail is wagging the dog. And that's why somebody as serious as a General Milley, he finds himself in front of Congress answering questions posed by the likes of Matt Gaetz. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, quite. All right, we got more on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, on the other side, I'm going to break down this Jesse Lee Peterson thing. I had him on the program a few days ago. I kicked him off the show. I stand by my decision. He decided to make a show about me kicking him off the show. And it illuminates why you and I should continue to work as hard as we can to make sure every American has access to mental health care. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable.
I'm Nina Turner, and we are on the road to revolution, baby. And I know sometimes people talk about the angry black woman, but I'm gonna tell you something. If you ain't mad as a mofo about what's going on here, something is wrong with you.
When people ask me all the time, what are the lessons from 2020, is that progressives have to get more organized and we gotta come together. We have to be as agile as neoliberals. The progressive movement has to understand that it's not just enough for us to have the right ideas. We are right on most of the ideas. We're not perfect, but we're 99% right because it is a humanitarian agenda, but we must get the power. We have to come together in a more unified way so that we utilize our power strategically to topple neoliberalism, and it's gonna happen.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm new to TikTok, but about 3 years ago, I started my daily political news show, The Damage Report, because I noticed this trend where every morning I was waking up to this tsunami of news that was just generally dreadful and horrifying and shocking, and I thought that if I could spend my time helping people to navigate this, serving as a bit of a life raft, pointing out which news is important and why, there are worse ways to spend your day. We're not an average news show, and we don't want our TikTok presence to be average either, so feel free to let us know what you'd like us to do on the platform, and maybe give us a follow at The Damage Report.
All right, Amazon Prime members, here's how you can subscribe for free on Twitch. Start by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then click that little subscribe or resubscribe button below the stream on Twitch. Scroll down and select the subscribe free with Prime button, and then you're finished. Close out immediately and share your little subscription alert with the chat. Send a cute message along with it, and bathe in the sweet, twitchy, Bezos-funded love. Hashtag Bezos Bucks.
Hey everyone, Matteo Scarapore here, author of Black Buck, which is Shop TYT's first fiction book ever. I'm honored. So, Black Buck is about a young man named Darren who's living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He lives with his mom, he has his girlfriend, he has his best friend, he has his neighborhood, and his neighborhood has him. Darren's also working at a Starbucks in Midtown Manhattan. And one day, this man, who's real suave and good looking, comes in and asks Darren to give him his regular. But for some reason, Darren says no. This man named Rhett Daniels, who's the CEO of a startup called Someone, located on the 36th floor of the same building, is impressed. And he invites Darren upstairs, and then he extends an offer to join his elite sales team. Darren reluctantly joins, and he soon realizes that he's not the only black salesperson there. He's the only black person in the entire company. So he goes through hell and back in order to make it to the top. And once there, he has status, money, power, but he says, you know what? I don't like being the token black guy. So he hatches a plan to help other people of color infiltrate America's tech startup sales teams, redefining what it means to be a minority in the workplace. This book definitely, if you couldn't tell, touches on many things that are relevant to this moment that we're all living in right now. But it's also connected to the many moments in history that have come before today. I hope that you read it. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you want to order a copy, go to shoptyt.com. Thank you, be well, and happy 2021.
Welcome back to Indisputable. Make sure you are subscribing. It is free, it is simple, it is easy to the Indisputable TYT page on YouTube. Make sure you join us live there every weekday, same bat time, same bat place, all right? Make sure you go to Indisputable TYT. If you are watching me from TDR or anywhere else, make sure you subscribe to Indisputable TYT. I think we're at 95,000. Our goal was 100,000. We are close to that. Hell, we can do that today. Make sure you subscribe ASAP, Indisputable TYT. Follow us on all social media, keeping you informed both on air and off air, Indisputable TYT. I'm gonna read some of these comments, okay? And thank you all for engaging with the program. Don't forget the Economic Justice Town Hall, June 26th. That is in Cleveland, Ohio. We have our dear sister, Senator Nina Turner, co-hosted by Killer Mike Jenkins. And this is going to be one of those just amazing town halls. If you're anywhere near that area, you need to sign up. Visit tyt.com/events to RSVP for more details. You can also watch the event live on the 26th, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time on the main show, Facebook, Twitch, and tyt.com, all right? Okay, let's get to it. TYT member Shikata Ganai, maybe, I think I said that right, says, in an age of GPS, computers, cell phones, radios, and video cameras, traffic stops are not necessary. Nobody can outrun a camera and GPS. And he wasn't trying to outrun the traffic stop. He was trying to get away from the pepper spray and get his children away and wife away from the pepper spray. Super chat, Alan Smith says, I'm an electrician. My work has the potential to kill someone. If I found out my work killed a worker, I think killed a child, you won't have the chance to fire me because I'm gonna quit. I got it. If I found out my work killed a child, I understand that. Okay. Thank you for the comment. Desiree DeWitt says, Dr. R, you are so effing brilliant. I love your show. Keep slaying those conservatives. Well, thank you. Karen Venus, thank you for that. Forbezilla was. I took your last response as I need to keep blowing up your Insta until you reply, my love. Damn. She dropping it like that in the inbox. I don't know, man. I mean, the DM is what it is. Okay. Non-human humanist. You need to stop ignoring people, Was. Non-human humanist says, does the Good family have a GoFundMe? I think they do, and you can Google that. I do believe they have a GoFundMe set up. Yes. We'll put the link in the description of the video on YouTube and Facebook. So that's what we'll do, so you can find how to contribute to that GoFundMe, okay? Neil Foxcom says, the disdain that these cops show black people is no different than slave patrols. Yeah, okay. All right, I gotta move on. I'll read some more comments in just a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring your attention to the bullpen we had a few days ago with conservative pastor Jesse Lee Peterson. Okay, my producers did that, and that's hella funny. I wish a Karen would. Yes, Jesse Lee Peterson was the ultimate Karen. He is playing the ultimate Karen now. So if you were not tuned into that show, the bullpen segment is obviously typically the debate segment. We literally give the debate guest the topics that we're going to talk about. Why? Because I want you to be able to know what we're talking about, research it, have an informed opinion about it, and engage in a good faith dialogue, a good faith debate. Well, this individual, Jesse Lee Peterson, decided not to do that. He wanted to come on my show and bash gay people, black people, lesbians. That's what he wanted to do. He did not want to engage in a good faith debate. So he decided, after I kicked him off the show, to do a whole show about me kicking him off the show. And I do have a response to this conservative clown. Let me first remind you of some of the things that happened on that show. He is the founder of White History Month. And when I brought this up, notice my face, because I almost lost my composure laughing, not with him, but laughing at him. Here it is. Sir, you all have a celebration coming up next month. Are you not the founder of White History Month, I think, which starts in July?
Yeah, we're going to be celebrating our 4th year of White History Month in July. And the reason that we started it in July is because if you notice, July just feels white.
Yeah.
You know, it's summertime, vacation time, relaxing time, reflecting time, and appreciating the greatest country on this side of heaven.
Gotcha.
And so we are recognizing that and showing our appreciation for it.
I think it's important for people to know you're not a comedian. Yeah, he's not a comedian. He was serious about White History Month and the celebration of it. Now he bashed Juneteenth and he has the typical Sean Hannity talking points about other things, but he goes even more extreme. Now remember, I literally make sure he has, or any debate guest, they have what we're talking about. They have the topics. My production team, greatest on the planet, they make sure that their people receive all of the topics that we will discuss. It's very fair and it's very transparent. I asked them about the policy discussion that we were supposed to have in reference to the George Floyd Policing and Accountability Act. Well, here's his response. What in the policy of the George Floyd Policing Act do you disagree with?
The whole idea, what really
part of the policy? Jesse,
blaming the cops and no responsibility
Jesse,
for the blacks.
I'm asking you, what part of the policy is written? You can find it at congress.gov. What part of the policy, sir, do you disagree with? This is a simple question.
I disagree with the whole idea of a policy.
You haven't read the policy. You haven't even read the damn policy. Come on,
I don't need to read it. I don't need to read it to know the truth, because what I've noticed is that black people today, due to their lack of love, their lack of believing in God, they love evil more than they love good, right?
So that's the reason why you don't read.
And so
that's the reason why you don't read.
Right, because it was written by no good black people.
That's what he said. That's the reason why he doesn't read, is because policies are written by no good black people, or at least that policy was not worthy of his research. Now remember, we always make sure that the guest receives everything they need in order to engage in an intellectual debate about the topic or the policy. His people are failing him at his workplace. They are failing him. Now, this is what Jesse Lee Peterson said about me.
It was on the Young Turks Network. And the show was called Indisputable. And I had no idea how the show was gonna go. As I do with all things now, I have a wait and see attitude. Most of the time, I don't even, most of the time I may ask my PR guy, well, what do they want to talk about? And he'll tell me what they want to talk about. I do no research. I don't write down notes. I have no pre-planned idea of what I'm gonna, how I'm gonna respond, or what I'm gonna say, right?
That's a damn shame. It's not just a shame that he literally said, and I quote, I do no research. It's a damn shame that he has people following him for information. Ladies and gentlemen, he decided to go on and attack Black Lives Matter. He utilized terminology that was offensive and truly did not live up to a serious program. So I did what I had to do, and here's that. What is it about Black Lives Matter that you disagree with fundamentally?
Black Lives Matter was founded by a bunch of fat black radical lesbians.
Okay.
And who hate God.
Get this clown off my show. I appreciate you.
Who hate God, who hate the nuclear family.
Yeah. Listen, for those of you who wanted me to continue to engage that clown on this show, I'm sorry, I just couldn't do it. I'm only a human being. So please forgive me, okay? All right, here's what we'll do for the rest of the show. I will read some comments. And I know some of you will say, oh, Rashad, that was just so rude. And yeah, it was. I couldn't take any more of that foolishness. He's not going to make a debate in good faith. Even if you oppose whatever I believe on the most extreme policy side, at least you have a policy argument. I can engage in a good faith debate about ideas. But if you want to utilize this platform to bash gay people, to bash black people, to bash communities that are disenfranchised, if that's all you want to do, then no, you won't do that here. So Jesse Lee Peterson, he had his cronies, just as I predicted. They started tagging me on social media, calling me a beta male. That's the language they speak over there. And saying that I ran away from Jesse Lee Peterson. So here's what Jesse Lee Peterson told his followers to do if they encountered me.
So if you see Dr. Rashad Richie walking down the road, ask him why did he put a towel between his legs and run from Jesse Lee Peterson. He invited me on the show. I didn't invite myself. You would think he would have been ready. Are you ready? Are you ready for the coming of the Lord? Are you ready? Are you ready for the coming of the Lord? Be also ready.
The man says he does not read. He says he does not research. He's all over the place mentally. If he did not have that damn show, he would be unemployed and homeless. What other skill does he have? Nothing. Now here's my official response to whatever crony he may send my way. Here's my response back to Jesse Lee Peterson.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make change.
Switching topics. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would. You know what we do. We go across the United States of America and we highlight the Karens of the world. Now, this one is a little different. I have asked my producers to block out the face of this Karen because she's simply a Karen in training. I'm actually going to focus not only on her words, but on her parents, because obviously her parents have failed her. This is a child who has decided, because of the manipulation of her parents, to spew the same racist dogma that she has been taught, a Karen in training. This very demanding 9-year-old recently confronted her Minnesota school board about political Amanda Gorman and BLM posters hung at her elementary school. She attended the meeting to give public comment because the school board previously said there would be no political posters at her school. Now I want you to remember, I'm not bashing this 9-year-old. I'm bringing your attention to the fact that this is how parents are teaching their children. And instead of the parents having the decency, the courage to speak to this school board directly, what do? They send their 9-year-old daughter with their talking points to this school board meeting. Here's the first video.
The other day I was walking down the hallway at Lakeview Elementary School to give a teacher a retiring gift. I looked up onto the wall and saw a BLM poster and an Amanda Gorman poster. In case you don't know who that chick is, she's some girl who did a poem at Biden's so-called inauguration. I was so mad. I was told 2 weeks ago at this very meeting spot, no politics in school. I believed what you said at this meeting. So at lunch I went up to my principal to tell him about the BLM poster and that I wanted it down. He said it's not coming down. I was like, yeah, it is, because the school board said on May 25th, no BLM or politics in school. He said that's weird. They were the ones who made them. I was stunned.
Does that sound like a 9-year-old wrote that speech? She's calling another grown individual, Amanda Gorman, that chick. Does it sound like a 9-year-old sat down and wrote that speech? Of course not. It actually gets worse. Now, if you don't believe that this speech was written by her mother, I want to bring your attention to a very classic theme of Karens. The fact that they actually have black friends and they see no color. Here it is.
I do not judge people by the color of their skin. I don't really care what color their hair, skin, or eyes is. I judge by the content or the way they treat me. MLK said, I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That dream has come true. I do not care or look at the color of skin, but you make me think of it. I have Asian, Mexican, white, Chinese, black friends, and I don't care.
It's a damn shame. Her parents have failed her. Now, once again, my attention is not to this 9-year-old. That's why I decided to make sure her face is blurred out for this program. But this is the unfortunate reality of what is being taught to children across this country. And shame on these parents for not having the fortitude to simply address the school board themselves, but instead using their 9-year-old daughter in their racial rant against that institution. Woz?
It's sad that these grown-ups don't have the courage of their own convictions and couldn't just go up to the school board themselves and say this themselves, right? Why would you send your child as some sort of spokesperson or press secretary to spew the ridiculous, hateful language? And what I will say about even something like a Black Lives Matter poster, it's interesting why people feel so attacked by that phrase. Just nobody's even talking about the reader on the poster, right? Whoever can read it. It's just a statement of fact, right? I don't know why anybody would feel so sensitive or scandalized that a poster would say that Black Lives Matter. You should be saying, right on. Because I believe that that's true. Instead, obviously, a lot of these people you can tell they're just jumping out with their sensitivity because of the fact that they really don't like black people. They don't want to hear that Black Lives Matter because to them, they don't.
Yeah, man, I got to get this story in. I know we're at the end of the segment. I'm going, what in the redneck hell? Okay. I did not believe it until I saw it. There's I guess, festivity, a 5-day country party that organizers promised would feature mud, music, and mayhem. Well, they delivered on that promise. Now, it had a lot of drugs, a lot of meth, a lot of alcohol, and a whole lot of violence. One individual was, I think, cut by what the paper says was a friend. Let me just go to the quote. This is from Blake Montgomery, Yahoo News. One person slit a friend's throat. First of all, no, that's not your friend if he slit your throat. But here's how it's reported. One person slit a friend's throat and remains at large. A 29-year-old man had allegedly strangled a woman until she passed out. One person lost the better part of a finger, and another one was impaled when he drove a side-by-side over 2 to 3 inch log that broke through the bottom of the recreational vehicle, and the list goes on. Here's some of that video.
Redneck Outdoor Adventures, one of the best YouTube right now. If you ain't subscribed to that, subscribe, you a sucker butt ass sucker. Thank you all, 3 of you.
People were beaten, stabbed, lost limbs, strangled until they fell out. And the sheriff said, I'm not for them being shut down. I just want the patrons to behave lawfully. Now I wonder if this shindig would have been all black. Would the sheriff have said the exact same thing about all of this mayhem that happened? Woz, before you go, man, I gotta get your opinion on it.
You know, I'll say this, that's not my culture. I know you'd be shocked to learn that, Rashad. That's not my culture, and I don't profess to know very much about redneck culture, so I'm not gonna comment on cars with no doors on them and people crashing into them for recreation. That's cool, you know, like it's none of my business. Whatever you do in your leisure is fine, but I will say, violence or crime is only tolerated in this country when it's perpetuated by white people. I think the reason why you see gun laws the way they are is because white people need to have the right to be violent. I think you see, you know, the drug wave of opioids and all of that, all of the death that's associated with it. It's treated with care and not, a war on the opioid epidemic because it's a white problem. There's two separate rules in this country for white people and non-whites. This is just another example of that paradigm.
Another highlight. Brother, it is always a pleasure having you on the program. Tell everyone how they can follow you and check out your amazing show.
Yeah, man, just follow me at BIGWOS on every single social media platform that it is. I'm uniform in that respect. Make sure you subscribe to the Woke Bros podcast with me and Nando Vila, another TYT contributor who everybody obviously loves. And you can check read my stuff at The Ringer. Check out The Ringer NBA show if you're into the NBA at all. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you, Rashad.
Man, always a pleasure, brother. Thank you, Armin, for being on the show.
Thank you. You're killing it, guys.
Thanks, man. It's a team effort, as you know. I do have in the bullpen today former US Congressman Trey Radel, a Republican out of Florida. We're going to talk about policy, actual policy debates will happen in the bullpen today. Also, we have Andy Hale, who will be on the show in just a few minutes talking about wrongful convictions. Stick and stay. It's indisputable.
We are on to something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you that say no corporate backed money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're gonna fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free healthcare for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single payer healthcare, debt-free college, and we are gonna get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're gonna do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's gonna stop with us. It's gonna stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Justice Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a penny. Absolutely not.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here.
Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you.
I've been honest with him. Like, yeah, I was upset with you and I shouldn't have done it. But instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's Plant Your Change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No. No.
today, terrible day for the internet, terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information, and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
Welcome back to Indisputable. Let me read some of these comments. We got a lot of them. Don't forget to always follow us on social media. Indisputable TYT, Indisputable TYT, and on the YouTube page. Subscribe, it's free, it's easy. Make it happen. Indisputable TYT, Indisputable TYT. Okay, remember, I read that one. Okay, super chat. Omega Shinron Dragon says, the good doctor with the pen is giving me Watchmen vibes. Me Asa Dragon says, I feel sorry for children who are not taught to think for themselves. All people, race be damned, gender identity be damned. Please think for yourselves. Great advice. Mama Bear Dragon says, Uncle Ruckus, that's who he is. Real life Uncle Ruckus. Well, he's definitely the inspiration behind him, for sure. Okay, Donna W says Jesse Peterson is a buffoon. Love JJ 1814 singing. Okay, yeah, he just, who in the hell just breaks out in song? No warning whatsoever, and can't sing. Laura Mary Flores says, and people listen to him, they more like laugh at him, and they pay him to continue a comedy routine that he thinks is serious. Mary Bell says that kid watches Fox News with her parents. Perhaps. Lawrence Wells, they're poisoning their kids with these terrible messages. There needs to be an intervention. Yep. Comments about the cop story. He violated, Red Light Robot says he violated policy, but also human dignity. Good point. Abuse of authority is typically enabled, and I doubt this was his first instance. Agreed. Mr. Sushi 22. Any other job, you're fired immediately. That's correct. Richard Rivera says he took a child's life for a $125 ticket. Yeah, Twitch. Thank you all, subscriber. Green Bean 906 resubscribed for 5 months. Thank you. Celebrated with Dr. Richie 5 months. I thank you. Bohemian Dragon Tiger Lily gifted a sub. Thank you. Redneck Rave, regular mole rat dragon cheer 234 bits and said, that's a normal weekend out there. And yes, TYT got the new segment in today, Gal First 71. Thank you so much. Okay, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about somebody doing very important work and making a real impact in the criminal justice system. I have Andy Hale, civil rights and wrongful conviction attorney, documentary producer. And his documentary, A Murder in the Park, Wrongful Convictions and the Death Penalty. We're gonna talk about that and more. Andy, thank you for being on Indisputable.
Great to be here, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's first talk about your passion for this kind of work. Where did it come from?
You know, it's interesting, I've been practicing law for over 30 years. The last 15 years or so was defending Chicago police officers in civil rights lawsuits. I get hired as outside counsel. But I heard about a case where there was a guy that I thought was wrongfully convicted. And it was an incredible story. He had been trying to prove his innocence for 10 years. And a friend of mine, we decided to make a documentary about it. We had never done that. And incredibly, the documentary really resonated with the state's attorney's office. It shined a light on his case. It basically led to this man, L. Story Simon, getting released from prison. And that just kind of gave me the impetus to want to use documentary storytelling to shine a light on wrongful conviction cases and social justice issues.
You were able to transform the narrative of an entire human being because you decided to pay attention to some things and do something about it. Tell us how that has opened your, I guess, legal practice and legal philosophy as it relates to criminal justice systems in America?
Well, what I really found out was if you are in prison and you are innocent, it is so hard to get anybody to listen to you, to get anybody to help you. And what I found is, unfortunately, sometimes we need the power of the media. Sometimes we need the power of a documentary to tell the story, to tell the full story that people haven't seen or heard. And that can cause state's attorneys to do the right thing. They should do it on their own. But what I found is the documentary films on wrongful convictions can really be powerful. And then just to finish that thought, when L. Story Simon got his conviction vacated, he told me about his best friend in prison, a guy named Cleve Heidelberg. He said, hey, can you look at his case? He's innocent too. So we made a documentary movie about that case. It's almost done. It'll probably be out later this year. And I was able to get his conviction vacated after 47 years in prison. So it's just kind of this, I think through shining a light on these cases, through documentary filmmaking, I've been able to help guys who, take Cleve Heidelberg, half a century, this guy had been saying he was innocent. Nobody was listening. You know, it took something more. And once I did that, and I was there when somebody walked out of prison, there's no better feeling for a lawyer. I don't think there's any higher calling you can do in legal work, me personally, and I've been doing this now for 30 years. And so that's, my time is valuable. That's where I want to spend my time, helping guys in prison who shouldn't be there.
Let's talk about the dysfunction that leads to these wrongful convictions, because in the system, you are expected to have defense counsel, even if you cannot afford it. There's a prosecutor who literally takes an oath to uphold justice, not to simply prosecute. There's a judge who takes an oath to uphold the Constitution and justice, not simply to ignore evidence. And then you have another chain of command. You have the police officers, you have the investigators. How is it that out of roughly 5 to 8 entities that are involved in a court case, how is it that every single one of them got it wrong in these cases?
You have dysfunction on every part of the case, because I think it starts a lot of times with public defenders. There's a great documentary called Gideon's Army. I'd recommend people watch that. It profiles 3 public defenders. They got a caseload of like 1,000 cases. You get a public defender, they're doing a great job. They're earnest, they're hardworking, but how much time do they have for 1,000 cases? So that's the first part. You have state's attorneys who are mandated to seek justice, not just to convict, but they don't follow that mandate. They do want to just convict, and they're biased. They're not seeking the truth. I mean, police officers admittedly are biased. They investigate a crime, they turn it over to the state's attorney's office, okay? They want it prosecuted. The state's attorney's office is our gatekeeper. They can either accept charges, reject charges, or say keep investigating. And so I think too many times state's attorneys just want to get the conviction too. And then, sometimes you have evidentiary issues that happen and jury issues, and it's a perfect storm.
You are providing what I call a significant remedy, but it is not a system remedy. What is the system remedy to stop this from happening?
I think the system remedy, one of the biggest things I preach on is, I think it's accountability. It's kind of consistent with a little bit with the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, where one of the things in that act, they want to have a national database of problematic police officers. I think here in Chicago, and I've defended dozens of Chicago police officers, 13,000 officers, right? 10% is 1,300, 1% is 130. You got 1% of the guys that are bad apples, but those guys are wreaking a lot of havoc. And you know what? We all know who they are. The department knows who they are, and we don't properly weed those guys out. And there has to be accountability. Let's take the Derek Chauvin case with George Floyd. Not only Derek Chauvin, what he did was outrageous and egregious, but what about the guys just standing there, just watching, who didn't think to come over and say, hey buddy, get your knee off his neck. That's not proper. Like, they did that despite the fact that Darnella Frazier's videotaping that. Because they feel like clearly there's gonna be no accountability. To be that brazen, to do that for 9 minutes, and nobody steps in. So I think accountability, in my mind, is one of the biggest issues.
It is said that evil does not prevail simply because bad men do bad things, but because good men sit back and do nothing. And I would challenge that argument and say, if you sit back and do nothing, you're not a good person at all. How can people check out your documentary and your upcoming work?
So the easiest way is my website. The law firm is HaleMonico.com. That's Hale, HaleMonico. We've got my bio there. We got a media page. It shows the murder in the park, the Cleve Heidelberg documentary that's coming out. We got another one coming out about a guy named Chester Weger who was in prison for 60 years. And I got a couple guys that I'm trying to help that I want to do documentaries for. That I got to get slotted in there. And so that's probably the best way to see all our media projects.
Andy, I mean this when I say it, brother. Indisputable supports you. If you need help with something, you reach out to this team, okay?
I will do that, and I will take it. I will take you up on that.
Thank you, my friend. Please do. Continue the great work. We appreciate your time on Indisputable.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got more on the other side. The bullpen is coming up. Former Congressman Trey Radel steps in the ring to talk about Florida and what he calls the new rising star of the Republican Party, Governor DeSantis. We got more.
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm at a Wolfpack gathering.
We're growing. I see faces that I recognize, but I also see a lot of faces that I don't recognize, and that's fantastic.
We are all taking time out of our lives to be here, and that's amazing. That means we truly believe in this.
Make no mistake, everyone in this room is a leader in a Wolfpack.
Alaska, West Virginia, Montana, Georgia, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, everyone is here. All these folks paid with their own money and sometimes took vacation days to come here to strategize on how to get our democracy back and get money out of politics.
Or you get more political power just because you have more money. This is why it requires a constitutional amendment.
The process of winning in your state next year doesn't begin when session begins. It begins right now.
To work to a goal, something this big that you're actually making a difference of, there's very few things in the world that really compare to that feeling.
Equal rights to fair representation, rights for human beings, anti-corruption laws, and free and fair elections. That's what we are fighting for.
What were the founding fathers? Revolutionaries. And they built revolution into the document.
So Article 5 is the way we have to go.
This is how you do it.
You're in this as a team, you're in this together. The fight will always continue.
That fight is not between the left and the right. That fight is between basically greed and humanity.
So I'm asking you to put differences aside, whether you're conservative or independent or progressive, to join forces to say no more corruption.
You get beyond the fear, you take that first step, and you'll change the world.
What I want to leave you with, of course, is hope. And I want to assure you that if we keep fighting together, we're going to win together. We're going to get that convention, we're going to get that amendment, and we're going to get our democracy back. Come join us, wolf-pack.com.
Sharp increase in healthcare insurance premiums next year in response to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic.
The country is desperate for Medicare for all, but the mainstream media will tell you nonstop lies about how people don't want it.
Between 5.8 million and 23 million lost their healthcare just during this pandemic. And Joe Biden says, no, I don't think that's an argument for Medicare for all.
How are you going to find $35 trillion?
They constantly misstate things, but without explaining that the current system costs at least $50 trillion. Every other developed nation has a single payer system, and they all pay less. In fact, on average, they pay about half of what we pay.
It doesn't matter if taxes go up, if your healthcare costs go way, way down.
The for-profit health insurance companies are simply a scam, price gouging you, and they're in between you and your doctor.
Look, guys, the good news is we're gonna win. We're gonna get Medicare for all.
A famous new author has a book out. His name is Dogan Uger. That's my dad. Okay, the name of the book is called The Original Young Turk, and it's his life story. I read it, trust me, you're gonna love it. He has such a straightforward way of telling stories that you're gonna be amused by it. It's like, well, then I met JFK, then I was at the White House, then I started a business, then I became Businessman of the Year. It's amazing. You're gonna love the stories, and it's part of what made me progressive. Check it out at shoptyt.com.
It is wrong to deny any of your fellow Americans the right to vote
in this country.
Look, I tell you guys, most important thing is voting in primaries. Primaries.
I hope every American will vote for the candidate and party of his choice, but vote.
We cannot continue to complain about corruption and complain about what's happening in this country and continue to vote for it.
Let's get it right this time. It could be a moment of redemption for what happened in 2016.
Welcome back to Indisputable. Let's go to some of these comments. All right, and remember to follow us on social media, Indisputable TYT. Join the YouTube page, Indisputable TYT. Let's make it happen. All right, TYT members, New York Rican says, by the way, Dr. Rashad Richey, you have my favorite news show going on. Keep it pushing. Well, thank you for that. YouTube. Rajan Savini says, Dr. Rashad, love the peace, the class of conversation, the directness of fact, and the whoosh of Karen Wood piece. Keep fighting for truth, brother. Thank you for that, and I shall. How to stay hopeful. Aquarius Dragon says, sigh. How can one appeal to the better side of humanity when so much is evil? Anna says, there is so much wrong going on these days. I feel helpless and hopeless. It can't be too soon to have real major change. I agree with you. Continue to fight the good fight. I want you to remember this. There is nothing final in a democracy. You always get an opportunity to transfer people if you cannot pressure them, all right? Wrongful convictions, police reform. Yaun Fleming says, sounds amazing. The department would never weed them out. Custo Kriakopoulos. What's interesting is those in power get everyone down the rung to go after each other rather than coming together to take them on. James Moore about the Redneck Rave. That rave was not quite Mad Max, more like Upset Gerald. That's funny. DeSantis, Prince of Judah 79 says, LOL, Republicans have a new savior. Zachary Fluke, oh boy, my state's governor. 003 Adam _ Ant 300. Wow, Dr. Richard interviewing someone that's compassionate and logical and just. And it was all of that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. In the Bullpen today, we got former US Congressman Trey Radel out of the state of Florida. We're going to chop it up about policies connected to DeSantis, who is, yes, a rising star, I guess, in the Republican Party. Trey, good day. Thank you for being on Indisputable.
Always great to be with you, my man.
Okay, let me first start with your support, I think, of Governor DeSantis. Why do you support him? What policies do you stand behind?
Where do we start? So I would start big picture, just very generally speaking, as a conservative. And I would also say that Governor DeSantis, who's around my age and I consider a friend, I was sworn into Congress with him. He is a libertarian-leaning conservative, and what that means is he believes in some of the things that you and I have talked about, which include police reform, which include, while he has not been public about this, I know that he has expressed his views about the war on drugs and other things, again, that you and I have talked about. What I love mostly is that our state, while New York and California and others were put into senseless lockdowns, putting families out of work, unemploying people, locking them down into their homes, and all of the horrific things that we saw come with that, Governor DeSantis kept our state open. And he did so because he followed the science. And the science still today is vindicating him, showing that our unemployment rate is low, our economy is booming, and we didn't have to destroy our economy or our state, and we were still open, and yet our numbers when it comes to hospitalizations and infection rates of COVID are basically equal to about California and other states that locked down hardcore, and we did way better than New York.
Yeah, let's argue some of the nuance here. So number one, you have basically claimed on this show that Governor DeSantis is in fact close to being libertarian like yourself.
In some ways. Now,
okay, well, let me ask you about this way then. Because typically you guys are not for creating new laws. You all do not want additional government intrusion through statute. However, Governor DeSantis has passed a flurry of new laws, one of them making it a felony to protest and block traffic. Also giving civil immunity to individuals who run over protesters who are blocking traffic. And then he creates a new slew of laws that will mandate the teaching of communism as evil in curriculum in Florida. All of these are laws, new laws that are really, come on, man. Those laws are silly as hell, especially if you are a libertarian who believes in self-regulation rather than the government telling you how to behave. Where am I wrong here?
You're not. The communism thing, let's set that aside for a second. In terms of enhancing the block traffic thing, I think that they're creating a felony where there wasn't much of a problem. Look, let me also share some of the things.
So you're saying that was wrong? Like you're saying that was wrong to do?
Okay. Look, you love, I think, you like to have me on here, especially when you get to have me slam Republicans.
No,
and I will slam this.
Trey, come on, don't do that. Trey, you literally told my producers this is what you wanted to talk about. I said yes. Okay.
So that look, man, I'm just having a little fun with you here. So I'll be critical of this Republican-controlled legislature in some of the other things that they're doing. I am very apprehensive about having the government step in and start telling private businesses how to do their business. So let me give you two examples here in the state of Florida.
Well, before you get to those examples, just really quickly, because you said that you were critical of the Republican-controlled Florida legislature. But remember, Governor DeSantis, your friend, pushed the legislation and signed the legislation and then held a press conference about the legislation. Are you also critical of Governor DeSantis, who in fact is so he's the catalyst behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, dude, I'll be critical of everybody, including hardest on myself. The other things that Republicans have done that I'm just not comfortable with is the way that they are trying to infringe on what Democrats and Republicans seemingly hate today, which is big tech, and telling them how they can or cannot operate their business in terms of deplatforming people, who they can take off, what they can censor. That's one issue. The other is the way that they're telling cruise lines that you cannot mandate a vaccination status. Look, with both of these things, though, I think that liberals and conservatives today should start at minimum taking a look at what we're dealing with in society. And when it comes to big tech and deplatforming people, I think the Democrats would have a pretty different idea of how we should be regulating big tech if Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib, or let's even say Joe Biden, were taken off for some of their racist comments.
All right, let me go to something you brought up in the beginning of your monologue. You talked about Florida and their COVID numbers as one of the reasons why you support the leadership of Governor DeSantis. And to be honest, he has received significant credit, especially in the Republican Party, for his handling of COVID. But
don't forget the New York Times and CNN recently doing articles showing that Ron DeSantis has been vindicated after they friggin' threw everything at him at the beginning of it.
But I actually do research, so let me provide some context. They did not. If you look at every major county in Florida, the death rate was nowhere near the death rate of San Francisco. Nowhere as low, as the death rate of San Francisco. Now you all call out San Fran and call it a liberal city, and it is a progressive city, and these are far left radicals running the city. But that city literally had better numbers than any major county in the state of Florida as it relates to COVID. And it was all based on policy. So let's do a direct comparison. You have the policies of San Francisco being implemented, mask mandates, shutdowns, mandated social distancing, the whole nine. Well, what was the outcome? The outcome was that their numbers were superior to the numbers of Florida. But you all promote the numbers of Florida as if their numbers were superior than the others who implemented policy to make sure that people were protected. The lowest rate is that of Monroe County, that's the Florida Keys, at 65 per 100,000 population. County authorities shut down tourist businesses on the Keys at the end of March. The county authorities went against the guideline of DeSantis at the beginning of the next month. So you literally had county officials.
That's not that last part is not true. And if you want to get into the weeds,
let me finish.
Choosing.
Let me finish.
But that part's not true.
Let me finish. That's according to the LA Times. So you can source my information anytime you choose to. So according to the LA Times, the county authorities shut down tourist businesses. The county authorities, not the state, they shut down tourist businesses on the Keys at the end of March. They erected roadblocks on US 1, the only highway into or out of the Keys to prevent non-residents from coming in. Once again, against the guidelines of the governor. So while he's taking credit for these low numbers, Trey, it was actually county officials who implemented policies contrary to his desire or his guide, and they lowered numbers in these highly populated areas. The death rates in most of Florida's major populations, most of Florida's major counties had a death rate of COVID that resembled Los Angeles. Let me give you the facts on that. Miami-Dade had the largest, had a rate of 210 per 100,000. That was similar to California. Palm Beach, 173 per 100,000. St. Petersburg, 156 to 100,000. Those numbers are congruent, brother, with some of the worst counties in California. So here's what you literally have a governor taking credit for. And like I said, I did the research. The governor is taking credit for counties implementing policies contrary to his spoken desire and guidelines. And because of those policies, they had a decrease in COVID infections. Now he takes credit for the entire state as if it was his singular policy that created a better outcome than other states. Come on, man. You gotta be able to see through that, Trey.
The whole premise of this, I'm sorry, but let me just share with you, being a Floridian, living in Florida, watching this unfold every minute and covering it in the news, is that Governor Ron DeSantis, he governed somewhat like this. When all of this began to hit, he said, look, I'm in Tallahassee, and I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach. What I want to do as the governor of this state is allow Miami-Dade to make choices for their county, which is densely populated with big cities like Miami, and just north of them in Broward County, in Fort Lauderdale. I want you municipalities and counties to do what you need to do, because your rules are gonna be very, very different from the rules in Central Florida, where it's rural and nobody even lives near each other for miles and miles and miles. Contrary to the reporting that you have heard that has been put out by the national media, Governor DeSantis was, and he was even hit for it, but contrary to what you're saying about what he wanted or what his guidelines were, he didn't put out any guidelines except to say, I'm not doing a tyrannical Gavin Newsom, Andrew Cuomo statewide lockdown, because I know that our state has different pockets with different areas of density and population. I want your local officials who know your local area the best to make the decisions that are best for your community. And that's what happened. And that happened, quite frankly, Dr. Rishi, for months. It was only more recently, like within the last maybe month, that eventually Governor DeSantis and Republican lawmakers did something which, again, I take issue with. They told local jurisdictions, you cannot mandate masks anymore. And I think that's bullcrap. But it went against what Governor Ron DeSantis did from the beginning. And I love what Ron did. What Ron did was the way, quite frankly, Washington should work, and to start telling our states, you know what's best for your state.
Come on, man.
We don't know jack squat in DC.
Come on, man. The guy was schizophrenic on the policy. He comes out in one speech, he says counties are best able to make these decisions. A lot of what you see in the positive aspect of the numbers being low was because of Democrats in these counties making rules, making mandates so that they could decrease their numbers. He then takes credit for what Democratic policies did in the state, and he turns around and gives them a mandate that he said he would not give them. Come on, Trey.
But that's discrediting what was happening in all of the other counties. And there's another big picture to this. Let's take a look at all of the
what policy did he implement? Just answer this one question. What policy did he implement that led directly to the lower numbers of COVID in those democratically controlled counties in Florida?
He did nothing.
Exactly. I think I can move on now, brother. Yeah, but he's taking all the damn credit, Trey. Come on, man. Be genuine about it.
Dude, I don't come on here and not be genuine. I'm telling you that Governor DeSantis' style of doing this, he was the best in the freaking country. He was better than Newsom, way better than Cuomo in the way that he handled this. He did what, quite frankly, Washington, D.C. should be doing today, which is leaving decisions up to the states, more power to the states.
But that's not what he's doing now. That's not what he's doing now. He is literally, based on your own political ideology, he has decided through action, executive action, to take rights away from private companies. How can you say that is okay to do when you also say you are a libertarian, you do not believe in government intrusion, and these laws are excessive?
I'm very critical of Governor DeSantis's stances and eventual pushing in the Republican legislature, pushing it through to begin infringing on private companies. I got a problem with it.
Okay.
I mean, I have a major problem with it. However, and I think a great conversation that Democrats, Republicans, progressives, and conservatives should be having in this country today is what does constitute the public square? I mean, Doctor, you're telling me that you wouldn't be pretty pissed if a Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, or even Joe Biden or whoever got deplatformed from Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot, where these are very powerful tools for politicians to get their message across.
Yeah, it depends on what they've said, brother. So if they said something that has incited violence, if they say things that are racist, riotous, I would agree that they need to be taken off the platform. Come on,
well,
man.
Maybe another day we debate.
Yeah, come on now.
Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib's comments about Jewish people.
Okay, all right, we'll do that next debate when you come back on. I only have a few minutes left with you.
I got it.
Let me go back to another dynamic connected to your friend, Governor DeSantis. I think you do believe that racism exists, correct?
Oh man, it exists. It's a horrible stain,
right,
in America.
Right,
absolutely.
Well, DeSantis does not believe in systemic racism. He does not believe it actually exists. As a matter of fact, he said, and I quote, systemic policies that perpetrate racism and the conversation of systemic racism is absolute, and he used this terminology, horse manure. Do you agree with DeSantis that systemic racism is horse manure?
No, I don't know any of the context of Governor DeSantis saying that.
He said, I just told you. He said it was horse manure.
I don't know the context of it though, Doctor. Look, Ron is a good man. And I consider him a friend.
I'm not on here to argue, brother.
I know that.
He probably is a decent guy to you.
Systemic racism. I don't know the context of that, but he has not implemented any or pushed for any policy in the state of Florida that is racist in any way, shape, or form.
Damn
if you
lie.
want to talk about voter laws, I'm
damn lie. Damn lie. Let me tell you the policies that he has pushed that are in fact racially
voter
biased.
ID.
Nope, I'm not even talking about that. I ain't got time to school you on that because I have a limited time on my show. But let me school you on something he recently did. The making it a felony to protest traffic, or to protest and block traffic. He did this one day before the George Floyd verdict, where Black Lives Matter, they were organizing events all across the state. So he wanted to make sure that these black kids, if they block traffic after the verdict, that they would be charged with a felony that carried up to 15 years in prison. You do not find that to be racially biased? You do not find the timing of that to be insensitive? And as a libertarian, you don't find it to be ridiculous to create a law like that?
Yeah, I do. I just was critical of it. I don't think that it should be.
No, you just said you were critical of it, brother. You weren't actually critical of it. You just said, I'm critical of it, and you kept moving. You're not actually critical of it.
All right, look, first of all, I don't know how it's racist when I'm looking at the protest, it's mostly about 20-something-year-old white male.
But it's about black lives, brother. Let me take you back to the KKK days, the Ku Klux Klans. Remember they killed black folks for trying to insert their own rights, but they also killed white people and they called them N-word lovers, right? They got clumped in the same column, brother. So while yes, you have a lot of our woke white brothers and sisters and brown black brothers and sisters on the side of justice with black folk, still the laws are meant to penalize their specific protest for black lives. That is a racial bias issue.
I don't agree with that, and doctor, I've been called what you just said, an N lover. I've been called that when I lived in where I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay, all right. That's a whole different conversation, Trey. All right, let me go to this. I want to make sure we talk about this before we leave. Another illustration of Governor DeSantis and his political back and forth. So on one hand, he passes a law mandating thought diversity. You've heard about this law, correct?
Yeah, and again, look, sorry, but I think that all of this is a little ridiculous. Just like this whole banning of critical race theory, when critical race theory is not actually taught in the schools.
So when are you going to hold these damn people accountable? Then you say he's your friend. You need to have an intervention with this guy. Come on, man. Like you have disagreed on my show today about 80% of what we talked about. You actually agree with me on and disagree with him on. Come on, man.
But I got a hell of a lot that I agree with Ron on, and I think that Governor DeSantis has been the premier leader when it comes to pulling through the pandemic. Even though I may disagree with some of his
Democratic policies are the premier leaders. He's just taking credit for it.
No,
as we have already established on this show.
I could argue with you all day and night about that because again, the premise that you're giving is exactly what Ron wanted. What you're saying is what Ron was pushing for. He said Democrat controlled Miami-Dade or Miami Beach or the city of Miami. You do what you need to do for your people. I'm in Tallahassee. I'm not going to make decisions for you.
But Democratic policies, the same policies implemented in places like San Francisco and others, are the reason why Florida had this cumulative average lower than most states in the US. So at some point, DeSantis should be authentic about his proclamation and say, it wasn't my policy. It was my allowance of others to make the decision.
It was his policy.
Come on, man, he's been taking credit.
You know, there's the bigger picture to all of this, though, too, is all of the peripheral that has come with the lockdowns, the mental health issues, the drug and alcohol abuse, the domestic abuse. I was recently in Massachusetts talking to family who's a teacher there of middle schoolers. 13-year-old kids attempting suicide, multiple in her classroom. Why? Because of all of this peripheral crap that we had from the lockdown.
And that's been a horrible
and Cuomo mandated.
Yeah, okay, that's been a very, very horrible byproduct of all of this, brother. So I'm with you on that argument. Before I let you go, we're almost out of time. Let's talk about this straw poll. DeSantis actually won a straw poll. I mean, it was like less than 1%. Or right at 1% plus against other Republicans. This was kind of a grassroots straw poll done by a conservative group. They put up 30 candidates and they say, hey, who's your favorite Republican? And DeSantis beat Donald Trump barely. He beat Donald Trump in this straw poll. What are your thoughts about that straw poll? Do you think it actually says something about his popularity, or is it a big nothing burger?
Yeah, so now this is me just being a political animal. So for you watching right now, straw polls generally don't mean jack. They don't mean anything at all. They're not scientific. It's just a group of people who happen to be in a room at that time. The only thing that I would indicate is sometimes what straw polls can do is begin to show a groundswell among conservative or liberal activists with, depending where you're doing the straw poll. And when you have people like that are very passionate and into what they're doing, especially out of the state of Florida, it maybe indicates that, well, I think it does indicate that Governor DeSantis's popularity, by the way, doctor, with Republicans and Democrats here in the state of Florida, I think undoubtedly is picking up in terms of Republicans across the United States.
All right, so let me provide some context to that straw poll. Only 500 people participated. You're able to literally vote on more than one candidate. You have 30 candidates that are clumped in. You can literally manipulate how the vote is done. And also out of the last, 8 people that they have chosen to be the favorite Republican to become president, they have been wrong virtually every time. I think they got it right with Trump, but they were wrong with Herman Cain, God rest his soul, and so many others. So this is definitely, to me, not an actual test of your popularity nationally. But that has not stopped your dear friend and his team from pushing this straw poll as if it is a scientific poll. It was 500 damn people that participated. All right, man.
Hey, real quick, I'll tell you what's gonna start to get weird and heated up is you're gonna have 2 Floridians now that potentially may run for president. And they supposedly are friends right now, but that's Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. And
yeah, that's gonna change. Hell,
fireworks are gonna
blow. But you already know Trump mad about that damn poll. Come on, man. You already know that. All right, Congressman, it is always a pleasure to engage in a thoughtful debate and conversation with you, man. I appreciate you being on Indisputable.
I love you. I love being on. I really enjoy these conversations.
Same here, man.
All right, take care.
You too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of the planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable.